What if I told you that every time you fly, there are dozens of secrets happening right above your head in the cockpit? Things the pilots know that you have absolutely no idea about. Well, today, we're going to change that. I tracked down pilots from some of the biggest airlines in the world and I convinced them to spill everything. We're talking about secret naps at 30,000 feet, hidden buttons that could do insane things, and why sometimes the plane feels like it's flying itself in a really weird way. This isn't just about cool facts. It's about understanding the incredible world of aviation that's normally kept completely hidden from passengers. I literally spent thousands of dollars flying these pilots out here just so they could share these secrets with you. We're going to go through 18 of the most insane things that happen on every single flight. Some of these will blow your mind, some might make you a little nervous, but I promise, by the end of this video, you will never look at flying the same way again. We've got so much to cover, from hidden cameras to emergency fuel dumps, and we're going to break down every single one. Are you ready to learn what really goes on behind that locked cockpit door? This is the ultimate guide to airline secrets, and you are not going to want to miss a single one. We have 18 secrets to get through, and each one is crazier than the last. So buckle up, make sure your tray table is in the upright and locked position, because we are about to take off into the most insane video I have ever made. Let's get into the first secret, which is something you've probably wondered about on a long flight. Do pilots actually sleep? The answer is going to shock you. Let's do this. Chapter 1. You're on a 14-hour flight over the ocean and you start to wonder, are the people flying this giant metal tube getting tired? The answer is yes, and there's a system for it. It's called Controlled Rest in Position, or CRIP. On long-haul flights, aviation authorities like the FAA actually regulate this. One pilot can take a short, planned nap, usually around 40 minutes, right there in their seat. It's not like they just doze off. It's a highly structured procedure. The other pilot has to be fully awake and alert. They run through a specific checklist before the rest period even begins. This isn't some lazy secret, it's a critical safety feature. Chapter 2. Look at this cockpit. It's covered in hundreds of buttons, switches and dials. It's insane. Passengers imagine a big red "do not push" button, but the reality is less dramatic, still incredibly complex. Most buttons are for routine systems, hydraulic pumps, fuel crossfeeds, anti-ice systems. Some buttons you definitely don't press by accident. Guarded switches, for example, engine fire extinguishers. You must lift a red cover before activation. Chapter 3. This one is going to make you look around the next time you fly. Are you being watched on an airplane? Yes, absolutely. But it's not as creepy as it sounds. Since 9/11, regulations require cameras to be installed to monitor the area outside the cockpit door. That lets pilots see who's at the door before they unlock it. They can view a live feed on a cockpit display and prevent unauthorized attempts to force the door. The cameras aren't just for the cockpit. Many modern aircraft also have cabin cameras. They aren't there to spy on you. They help flight attendants maintain situational awareness. From their station, attendants can check different cabin sections without walking the full length of the plane. Privacy is a priority. Cameras are never placed in or near lavatories. Footage is typically not recorded long-term unless an incident occurs. So while pilots can see you, you can't see them. It's a one-way view for a good reason. The system protects the flight deck and gives crew tools to keep everyone safe. So yes, you're on camera, but it's just one of many invisible safety measures during your flight. Chapter 4. We've all been there. The plane is flying perfectly smooth, not a single bump, but that little seatbelt sign is still lit up. You're thinking, come on, I need to use the restroom. So why do pilots sometimes leave it on when it feels totally unnecessary? The truth is, turbulence is one of the hardest things to predict with 100% accuracy. Pilots have sophisticated weather radar, get reports from other aircraft, and receive forecasts. But there's something called clear air turbulence, or CAT, which can be completely invisible and happen without any warning at all. Leaving the seatbelt sign on is often a precautionary measure. If the pilots are flying through an area where turbulence is possible, even if it's not happening at that exact moment, they'll keep the sign on to be safe. Chapter 5. Sometimes when the autopilot is flying the plane, you might feel a sudden, small, kind of weird side-to-side wiggle. It's a strange sensation, almost like the tail is wagging. You might think something is wrong, but what you're likely feeling is a system called the yaw damper. Large aircraft have a tendency to oscillate, a phenomenon known as Dutch roll. The plane rocks its wings and wags its tail side to side. It's not dangerous, but it can be uncomfortable for passengers. The yaw damper prevents this by making tiny constant adjustments to the rudder. These tiny precise adjustments counteract the plane's natural wiggle, keeping the ride smooth. Chapter 6. On a 16-hour flight from New York to Singapore, you know the pilots take short naps in their seats. But what about the rest of the crew? Welcome to the world of secret crew rest compartments. On most long-haul wide-body jets like the Boeing 777 or Airbus A380, there are hidden bedrooms that passengers have no idea exist. I'm talking about fully flat bunk beds complete with pillows, blankets, and privacy curtains. It's absolutely insane. Where are these hidden rooms? It depends on the aircraft. On some planes they are located in the belly of the plane, in the cargo hold area, accessible by a secret staircase near the galley. On other planes, like the A380, they might be tucked away in a loft space above the main passenger cabin. These areas are strictly off-limits to passengers. They are designed to allow flight crew and cabin crew to get several hours of proper horizontal sleep during ultra-long-haul flights, ensuring they are rested and ready to perform their duties safely for the landing and subsequent phases of flight. This is not a luxury. It's a regulatory requirement for flights over a certain duration. It's another one of those secrets that's all about safety, ensuring the crew managing your 15-plus hour flight isn't dangerously fatigued. Chapter 7. Imagine this scenario. Shortly after takeoff, your plane has a medical emergency or a minor technical issue that requires it to return to the airport. But there's a huge problem. The plane is way too heavy to land. Maximum takeoff weight, maximum landing weight. Long flights equal thousands of gallons of fuel. Too heavy to land safely. So what do? They have to dump the fuel. Dramatic and wasteful? It's actually a specific, controlled emergency procedure. Pilots don't just dump fuel anywhere. They must get permission from air traffic control. Then they're directed to a specific, unpopulated area, usually over a large body of water. Fuel is released from nozzles on the wings. At high altitude, the fuel atomizes into a fine mist. The mist evaporates long before reaching the ground. Chapter 8, the Cockpit Voice Recorder, or CVR, is probably one of the most misunderstood pieces of equipment on an airplane. Most people think of it as a black box that records everything the pilots say, forever, but that's not really how it works. First, the CVR records on a continuous loop, usually for only the last 2 hours. The reason for this short loop is privacy. The CVR is not there to spy on pilots' personal conversations. Its sole purpose is to help accident investigators understand what was happening in the cockpit in the final moments leading up to an incident. By recording all ambient sounds, engine noises, alarms, clicks, and of course crew conversations, it can provide a crucial timeline of events. And here's a big misconception. The black box isn't even black. Both the CVR and the flight data recorder, the FDR, are painted bright orange to make them easier to find in the wreckage of an accident. They are built to be virtually indestructible, capable of withstanding massive impacts, intense fires, and extreme deep-sea pressure. Chapter 9. You've definitely seen the smoke detectors in the airplane lavatories. There are big signs warning you that tampering with them is a federal offense. But those aren't the only smoke detectors on the plane. There are secret ones hidden in places you would never even think about, and they are constantly monitoring for any sign of a fire. The cargo holds, for example, are packed with a network of highly sensitive smoke detectors. These are crucial because a fire in the cargo bay would be completely invisible to the crew and passengers. If one of these cargo smoke detectors goes off, an alarm and a light will immediately illuminate in the cockpit. The pilots will see exactly which cargo bay is affected, and can activate the fire suppression system for that specific compartment. With the push of a button, they can flood the hold with a fire suppressant gas, like halon, which suffocates the fire without damaging the aircraft or its contents. There are also smoke detectors in the avionics bay, which is the compartment under the cockpit that houses a lot of the plane's electronic brains. An electrical fire in this area would be catastrophic, so early detection is absolutely critical. So, rest assured, the entire plane, from the toilets to the cargo holds to the electronics bay, is wired with detectors to give the crew the earliest possible warning of a fire, so they can take action immediately. Chapter 10. You're boarding your flight and you see something that makes your heart stop. It looks like there's tape on the wing or the engine. Your first thought is this plane even safe to fly? Don't panic. What you're likely seeing isn't duct tape, it's a special high-speed aviation-grade aluminum tape, speed tape. It's incredibly strong, it's expensive. It's FAA approved, used for minor temporary repairs to non-critical parts of the aircraft's skin. It can withstand extreme temperatures. It handles moisture. It survives speeds over 500 miles per hour. Every time this tape is used, it's documented in the aircraft's maintenance logbook. There are strict rules about where it can be used, how much can be used, and how long it can stay on before a permanent repair is made. This is part of a broader system of maintenance placards and deferred items. Chapter 11. Have you ever been on a flight that seems mostly full? But there are a few random empty seats, often middle seats, scattered around the cabin? You might think the airline just failed to sell those tickets, but sometimes that seat is empty for a very specific, secret reason. One of the most important factors in flying is weight and balance. The aircraft has to be balanced correctly from front to back and side to side to fly safely and efficiently. The pilots and the ground crew use a complex calculation to distribute the weight of passengers, cargo, and fuel. Sometimes, to achieve the perfect center of gravity, they have to intentionally block a few seats. This is especially common on smaller regional jets or on flights with unusual cargo loads. The computer system that assigns seats will automatically block certain seats to ensure the final weight distribution is within safe limits. So that empty middle seat might not be a lucky break. It might be a crucial part of the plane's balancing act. Chapter 12. In the cockpit, between the two pilots, there are these two large round wheels that look like they belong on a ship. They are not for steering. They are the trim wheels. And pilots have a huge amount of respect, and even a little bit of fear for this system. Trim is used to relieve the pressure on the control column. Instead of constantly pushing or pulling on the yoke to keep the plane's nose at the right angle, the pilot can adjust the trim, which moves a small surface on the tail called a trim tab. This holds the plane in the desired attitude, allowing the pilot to fly hands-off. It's a massive workload reducer. But there's a dangerous scenario pilots train for, called runaway trim. This is when the trim system malfunctions and starts moving on its own, uncontrollably, trying to pitch the plane's nose either straight up or straight down. It's an incredibly powerful system, and if it runs away, it can create forces so strong that the pilots can't physically overcome them with the control yoke alone. Because of this danger, there are multiple layers of protection. There are two big obvious cutout switches on the center console that allow the pilots to immediately disconnect the automatic trim system. They practice this scenario over and over in the simulator, recognize the runaway trim, hit the cutout switches, and then manually retrim the aircraft using those big wheels. Chapter 13. Pilots have an amazing tool in the cockpit, weather radar. It's a screen that shows them where the nasty thunderstorms are and heavy rain, allowing them to navigate around them. It paints a picture of the weather ahead, with green, yellow, red colors indicating precipitation intensity. It seems foolproof, right? But here's the secret. Weather radar has serious limitations. One of the biggest is called attenuation. The radar signal can be absorbed or reflected by a very intense storm, creating a shadow behind it. A pilot might see a big red thunderstorm on their screen but can't see what's on the other side. There could be an even more violent storm cell hidden in that radar shadow. Pilots never ever try to fly through a small gap between two red cells on their radar. That gap might not be clear air, it could be the shadow of a monster storm lurking behind the first one. They always navigate around the entire weather system by a wide margin to be safe. Because of these limitations, pilots don't rely on radar alone. They listen to reports from air traffic control. They talk to other pilots flying ahead on the same route for real-time reports, and finally, they use their own eyes, looking out the window to gauge severity. It's a blend of high-tech tools and old-fashioned airmanship. Chapter 14. In the safety briefing, they tell you to count the number of rows to your nearest emergency exit. It's great advice, but here's a secret. In certain emergency scenarios, especially at night, some of those exits might be incredibly difficult or even impossible to use. For example, if the plane has to ditch in the water, the exits over the wings are the primary exits you want to use. But what if that ditching happens at night in the middle of the ocean? It would be pitch black outside, making it extremely difficult to see if the wing is damaged or if it's even above the waterline. Airlines have procedures for this. The cabin crew are trained to assess the conditions outside an exit before they open it. They will look through the small window on the door to check for fire, water, or any obstructions. If the conditions outside are hazardous, for example if the water level is above the door, or the engine is on fire on that side, they will not open that exit. They will shout, "Exit blocked! Bad exit!" and direct passengers to a different, usable exit. Chapter 15. Someone on your flight has a serious medical emergency. The flight attendants rush over, they make an announcement asking if there's a doctor on board, but what's happening in the cockpit? This is where a huge decision-making process kicks in. The pilots are immediately informed by the cabin crew about the nature of the emergency. Their first job is to figure out the best and safest place to land the plane, and fast. This isn't as simple as just picking the closest airport on the map. The pilots, with help from their airline's dispatch center on the ground, have to consider a ton of factors. Is the nearest airport capable of handling their specific type of aircraft? Does it have a long enough runway? They use a dedicated radio frequency to talk to a ground-based medical service, often called MedLink, which has emergency physicians on call 24/7. If the decision is made to divert, it's a full-on mission. The pilots have to declare an emergency with air traffic control, who will immediately clear a path for them, giving them priority over all other aircraft. It's a massive team effort between the crew in the air, doctors on the ground, and controllers managing the sky to get that one person the help they need. Chapter 16. When you imagine an airplane cockpit, a Christmas tree of lights, blinking buttons, glowing screens everywhere. In movies, a busy, lit-up cockpit means everything is working. In reality, the exact opposite is true. Modern aircraft are designed with a dark cockpit philosophy. When everything is normal and all systems are operating correctly, most of the lights and buttons on the overhead panel are off. It's an ingenious piece of human factors engineering. A light illuminating on the panel grabs the pilot's attention immediately. It signifies something has changed, requires action, or is not in its normal configuration. Chapter 17. When you check your suitcase, you know it's going into the cargo hold underneath you. But your luggage is often just a small fraction of what the plane is carrying. The belly of a passenger aircraft is a massive space, and airlines use it to transport a huge variety of commercial freight, freshly cut flowers from South America, critical machine parts for a factory, high-end electronics, pharmaceuticals that need to be temperature controlled. This whole process is managed by a team you never see, including loadmasters and ground crew. Before the flight, they create a detailed load plan. Chapter 18. If you've ever listened to a live feed of air traffic control, it can sound like a completely foreign language. Pilots and controllers use a very specific set of phrases and coded words called radio phraseology. It's not to be secretive. It's about clarity and unambiguous communication. Instead of saying okay or yes, pilots will say Roger. Roger means I have received your last transmission. It doesn't mean they will comply, just that they heard it. To indicate they will comply, pilots say Wilco. Squawk 7700 is a coded way to tell the controller you have a general emergency. Pan 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 is the international urgency signal, one step below a mayday. These standardized phrases are used worldwide. A pilot from Japan can understand a controller in France. It's the universal language of the sky, designed to prevent misunderstandings that could have catastrophic consequences. But there's a push for plain, simple language when it matters most. The guiding principle is always clarity. Secret language equals efficiency in routine situations, but when safety is on the line, clear and simple communication is the most important rule of all. Outrow, and there you have it. 18 insane airline secrets that happen on every single flight. From pilots taking regulated naps, secret crew bunk beds, the truth about the seatbelt sign, why a dark cockpit is a happy one. Flying is one of the most amazing feats of human engineering. Today we pulled back the curtain to see the complexity and safety built into every trip. You now know more about what goes on behind the scenes than almost anyone else on your next flight. Think about it. The next time you see speed tape on a wing, you'll know it's not duct tape. The next time you feel a weird wiggle, you'll think of the yaw damper. And the next time your flight is delayed for weight and balance, you'll understand the critical calculations happening on the ground. This knowledge doesn't just make you a smarter traveler, it gives you a deeper appreciation for the thousands of people and systems working in harmony to get you safely from one city to another. It's a world built on procedure, preparation, and a relentless focus on safety. Thank you so much for watching. This was one of the most incredible videos to make. I hope you found it as fascinating as I did. If you learned something new, hit subscribe. We keep diving into worlds you don't normally see. What secret surprised you the most? Tell us in the comments. I'll be reading them. Fly safe and we'll see you in the next video.